Why is Bir Tawil still unclaimed and uninhabited? Will this issue ever get resolved, or will both Sudan or are both Sudan and Egypt secretly preparing for war in the long run? Bir Tawil. Let's find out what Bir Tawil is. Where's the map? We need to go to the map, my friends. Where's the map? Here is map. Yes. So let's put the map on the screen, and now we're gonna take a look at where Bir Tawil is. So you all know where India is. Yes, we're gonna go westwards. We're gonna cross the Arabian Peninsula, and here we are at the border between Egypt and Sudan. As you can see, it's a straight line, and you can see dashed lines over here, right? So this big, roughly triangular-like region, that's a disputed territory. Okay, and this smaller region, which is now kind of in the middle of the screen, let's zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. This region is called Bir Tawil, and this other region, which is kind of triangular, is called the Halaib Triangle. So both nations, Egypt and Sudan, claim this territory, the Halaib Triangle. Egypt administers it, and neither nation wants Bir Tawil. And if you look at it from the satellite imagery perspective, you can see it's mostly barren land, um, desert, and there's no vegetation and nothing essentially. Okay, so that kind of gives us a clue, one of the clues as to why Bir Tawil is something neither nation wants. So the smaller territory in the dashed line is Bir Tawil. The larger one is the Halaib Triangle. So what's the deal now? So to give you a very brief introduction as to what's going on and why Bir Tawil nobody wants it, it remains unclaimed. It is unclaimed by both nations, and because it's a rather low value piece of territory, it's a very harsh desert region. There is no human inhabitation. It's terrible. It's not good for habitation. There's no human inhabitation, and it's extremely harsh. There are no strategic reasons why any nation would want it. There are no economic reasons why anybody would want it. There's no political reason. There are no political incentives for either nation to claim it. There's no water. There's no resources. There's no access to the ocean. There are no development opportunities. There's nothing. It's completely unsuitable for habitation. Now, let's put this back on the screen and understand the historical context as to how these things happen. These disputes and whatever else happens. As you can see, if we zoom out, if you look at the borders of various nations in Africa, you will see lots and lots of straight lines. Even in the West Asia region, you will see lots of straight lines. And if you look at Egypt's borders, it's just straight lines more or less. Now, how did this happen? It's all the consequence of colonization. Okay, colonial powers they arbitrarily decide what the lines on the map are going to be, and that's the root cause of so many of the problems that plague and bedevil the African countries that exist today. So there was a historical border dispute between Egypt and Sudan, which originates in decisions made by the United Kingdom in the colonial era. So late 19th century, almost at the cusp of the 20th century, the British established this straight line boundary, which is, I think, called the 22nd parallel between Egypt and Sudan. And they placed this region of Bir Tawil, let's put that back on the screen, and the British put Bir Tawil in Sudan. Okay, then a couple of years later, like 2 3 years later, the British drew an ad hoc administrative boundary based on some, apparently some land used by tribals or whatever, and they drew this boundary. In this boundary, they placed Bir Tawil under Egyptian administration because of some tribal land use or whatever. So they first made this straight line map, then they changed their mind and placed Bir Tawil under Egyptian administration, and so on. So that is the origin of this matter. But there's a parallel issue, which is the dispute over the Halaib Triangle. So this Halaib Triangle is way more valuable. Okay, and both nations claim this. And strangely, because of this claim, neither nation wants to claim Bir Tawil. So according to what we call international law, which essentially is the treaties, etc., that both nations are party to. So, according to under the framework of international law, for whatever reason, I've not looked into the details. Apparently, there is no legal basis for either country to claim both territories simultaneously, and both nations want the Halab Triangle. And nobody, therefore, wants to claim the useless Bir Tawil, which is why it remains unclaimed. Nobody goes there. Neither country has any framework, administration, governance over there. Completely barren, no resources. Okay, so it's one of the rare unclaimed territories in the world. So I'm not sure what the details of the international law thing are, which ensure that neither nation can claim both territories simultaneously. But if you want, you can look into it. So both nations want the Halab Triangle. This has resources. This has water. This has access to the ocean, which is the Red Sea, and there is habitation as well over here. As you can see, there's habitation and so on. So that's the deal. It's one of the strange cases, one of the rare cases of a territory that is uninhabited and unclaimed by any nation. And I believe there have been attempts in the past by various people, just for fun, I suppose, to call it a micronation and so on. But and I suppose anybody can travel there to Bir Tawil, either through Sudan, if you are courageous enough to go there, or via Egypt. But I would not recommend going to Bir Tawil because there's no government there, and yeah, you may end up in trouble. So better not go there. So that's the deal with Bir Tawil.